for her role in the infamously violent Brinks armored truck robbery in 1981 in Nyack, New York. Perhaps some of you know about this. When Kathy was part of a leftist radical group called the Weather Underground. My parents were roommates and close friends with Kathy and others years earlier when they all worked together in Chicago and in Cleveland, community organizing with Students for a Democratic Society. The group of friends and activists splintered when some of them took a more revolutionary stance to eradicating poverty and civil rights violations. My parents went a different direction, but they all remained friends. I remember the strikingly beautiful mountains, that northern Appalachian scenery in upstate New York, clear July day. I remember driving around the curve to see the high barbed wire fence cutting into the blue horizon. I was scared. I was 10, holding my own mother's hand as we were frisked and processed through creaky metal gates with bars in ominous spiraled layers as we moved towards the center of the facility, where Kathy would be in the waiting room. My parents cried a little when we finally saw her. It had been many years for them. And though I had never met Kathy before, she was instantly warm. She was clearly brilliant, a little rough, bright-eyed, and a bit manic to learn about as much as possible about each of us in the 45 minutes we had together. Somewhere, we still have the Polaroid family photo we all took together that day. And at first glance, we could have been anywhere. We could have been at a vacation house together, which is exactly where we would have been if things had gone differently. But it wasn't just Kathy's intensity or the pressure to know her that I remember from that prison visit. It was every single other table having their visit. Besides us, every other woman, it seemed, was being visited by her children. It was difficult to focus on our conversation with the sounds of crying mothers and children who were seeing each other for just a few precious moments. I saw children and teens, some of them my age, looking detached, looking scared, full to the brim of pressure to make this a big moment. Kathy had been very busy in prison. Along with other women, inmates, and collaborators, she launched 5 major programs at Bedford Hills while she served her time. She started the teen program, supporting teens and preteens whose mothers were incarcerated, strengthening the mother-child bond during their separation, helping teens become positive, healthy young adults. She launched the Parent Education Program. Should I just use this? Okay. She launched the Parent Education Program, helping inmate mothers learn to be responsible parents to preschool and grade school and teenage children while they were separated by prison. Kathy also started the Adult Literacy Program, which used an innovative curriculum that she wrote. It was an outgrowth of the work she did for her master's degree in adult education, earned while she was at Bedford Hills. She started the AIDS and Women's Health Program, the first peer community health program devoted to AIDS among prisoners. And finally, Kathy organized the college program, providing courses and degrees to incarcerated women. Boudin helped organize a consortium of private colleges to offer this program after New York State cut all the public funding for higher education in prisons. Finally, she co-authored the Foster Care Handbook for Incarcerated Parents, published by Bedford Hills in 1993. She co-edited Parenting from the Inside Out, Voices of Mothers in Prison, published by Correctional Institutions and the Osborne Foundation. Like I said, this is not a story of poverty, but it is a story of one mother's incarceration. Her son, Chesa, my age exactly, was 1.5 years old at the time of the robbery in Nyack. Kathy and her husband had dropped him off with a sitter. He wouldn't see his mother again outside of a prison until he was 24 years old. Chesa was adopted by mutual friends of ours in Chicago, other members of the Weather Underground. Kathy and her husband, who was also incarcerated and still is with a 75-year life sentence for the same crime, wrote to Chesa every single day. But he was raised by someone else. This is a story about incarceration, remember, not poverty. In fact, in some ways, it's a story of how much wealth and privilege can affect the outcome of a mother's incarceration. See, Chesa did struggle for a long time as a kid. I remember that. But eventually he thrived at Yale, and then he was awarded the Rhodes Scholarship and went to Oxford. Today, Chesa Bodine is running for district attorney in San Francisco, where he recently helped upend California's cash bail system, which was widely seen as inequitable to people of color and to the poor. Because of his personal history, restorative justice and forgiveness, he says, are major parts of his philosophy around criminal justice. I ran into Kathy again years later on the New York City subway. We were both on our way to Columbia University, where I was studying and where she was teaching and still teaches in the School of Social Work. There is no making up for the lost years together, the lost time. But Kathy used her time to make life better and more manageable for other incarcerated mamas. Now Chesa is using his experience of his incarcerated mother to try and keep San Francisco safe and also kind, and to create a more humanizing justice system. When I say we are going to have to mother each other, I mean we are going to have to make the world safer for more people in our community, not just us, not just our own children and our own families. I mean we are going to have to scrape and advocate and make a way out of no way, because that is what mothers do. Unitarian Universalists across the country are joining up with the Southerners on New Ground in the campaign, the Black Mama Bailout, to try and bail out as many jailed mamas as possible in time for Mother's Day. I have contributed financially to this year's Black Mamas Bailout in Atlanta, and I hope my contribution made it possible for at least one mother to spend Mother's Day with her children this weekend. It's not enough, but it is something. Other Unitarian Universalist congregations, such as the UU Congregation of Asheville, offer a jail ministry in their community, where congregants go to local jail and they hold a book study group and a support group. Did you know we have a member among us here, Suzanne Wilson, who goes to the DeKalb County Jail and teaches law classes to inmates every week? Did you know that? Well, she's awesome, and Suzanne did not know I was going to say this, but she's interested in establishing a jail ministry here at UUCA. And she and I hope this is a program and a project we could launch sometime in the coming year here. It is Mother's Day in 2019. We have mothers who are interned at our border, isolated from their children. We have mothers who are jailed unfairly and without bail. And we have mothers who are incarcerated for years without support to sustain their relationships with their children. For the collective liberation of us all, let us create a different world. Let us work to find ways to keep families together, because that is how we honor the worth and dignity of mothers, all mothers. So take your mama out today. Hug her and love her and show her care. Take a moment to mourn your mother, to honor her if you have lost her. Take a moment to honor all the complicated ways mothers and mothering shows up in our lives. But take heart in knowing we are here to mother each other. And we cannot do that in isolation. And there is something you can do to free a mother in Atlanta today. And there is someone in your life who needs a little more nurturing. You can mother that person. You can let them know you will fight for their safety and security. You can let them know you will show up for them. Maybe that person is you. It's time to mother one another. Mother's Day began with a dream of international peace, inspired by mothers in the name of mothers who don't want to raise soldiers, but citizens. May we hold fast to that dream too. And remember Julia Ward Howe's demand each year and let it inspire us in a world yet unseen. In the name of womanhood and humanity, Julia Ward Howe proclaimed, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held to promote the alliance of different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. May it be so. Amen.
Our final hymn this morning is How Can I Keep from Singing? How can music tear down bars? How can music make tyrants tremble? Please rise in body or in spirit. My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please join hands, stay standing in body or in spirit for the benediction. This hand you are holding might need a little extra mothering. Maybe that looks like a hug or just a, how you doing? Or maybe an invitation to lunch or an invitation to a heartfelt conversation. This is how it begins. And then may we free the prisoners. May we all get free together. Amen. Go in peace. Blessed be.
Then I would have came after service back here finishing up the nitpicky. You know, we were so pushed too much. I didn't put grounding in a lot of places where I should. So these are all back in these. I got fixed so low. Not the big ones. And I ran to it right the first time. Anyway, I'll have that all done.
We could actually wire the lights, but it would be fishing another scene. Well, I'm not expecting to be using these theatrical. Actually, we probably should be using theatrical lights, but permanently installed. And probably controlled by a computer and not this. So I'm thinking we should at least do evaluation early, and this is some one service once we're in the
Yeah. Kind of want to wire everything before just there's different monitors for different people to see different versions.
Yeah.
So we want to build that in. Yeah.
I don't remember if I saw any costs.
I don't remember seeing the cost. It's developed by a church here in Atlanta, actually.
So the problem that I interpreted not posting the price as
Yeah. We could probably install it on a couple of these machines and just run it here.
one thing I did notice is that the max on Windows license are set.
That's what I want to do.
Changes what options are there. Churches probably afford to buy even against
On the credenza.
I can't do it from inside YouTube. I'm going to try to create a live stream. Nothing ever happens. I have a live stream button here.
It's the bridging service, and she has asked us. Okay.
But the lights were acting up too, so I was guessing that there's more art here than normal this morning. And so all of our SNRs are low. So these things have adjustable squelch. Yeah. I thought they were digital, which should. Yeah.
All right, everybody, it's 10:37-ish in that ballpark, and time for our last Sunday town hall before the congregational meeting next Sunday at 1:30. So I will like to introduce, let's see, who else here? We have some trustees here. John Duggar, who's running for trustee, is here. Yay, John, that's great. We have returning trustees John Johnson, who is also up for a one-year re-election this year. Our current president-elect, who will become president, Christian Harden. Yay. Jennifer Thilo, who is currently serving as secretary to the board, is up for president-elect at this election. Yay. Bill Kramer, who, like me, will be rotating off the board. Thank Bill for his service. And Sharon Glass, who returns under her term as board trustee. So thank you all for being here. Don't really have anything to pitch you guys. This is more of a Q&A kind of thing. So if you've got questions that you'd like us to hear, and we'll try to answer, and if we can't, we'll try to find an answer. So, yes?
I would like to know how long it will take before we hear back from those people with the Phoenix Project who are going to be interviewing and determining what we can afford.
Gotcha. Emmy Lou is asking the question, when will we know basically what's going on with the capital campaign folks, the feasibility study people, to figure out what's going on? All right, here's my recollection of it. I wish Bryce were here, because Bryce is really the board point person, on the capital campaign, but I'll try to remember what is going on. So Cox Curry has been hired to do our feasibility study. They need like 6 weeks to get all of their research done on us and to do all kinds of due diligence. So we've pulled all kinds of documents for them to review, not only about the Project Phoenix, but also about us as a congregation. So they're reading all kinds of past studies and surveys and everything they can get their hands on about us. We took them on a tour of 2650 on Friday, so they got to see it firsthand with our architect and with Project Phoenix folks. So they're compiling the questions and who needs to be on the committee to work with them to identify who will be the people who are interviewed as part of their process. So they need like 6 weeks to do all of that work, and we're like 1 week into it. Uh-huh.
If they've already toured the new location,
Uh-huh.
does that mean that the 6 weeks has begun?
Yes, the 6 weeks started. I would say this past week was the beginning of the 6 weeks. All right. So, yes. Let me finish answering this question first, okay? So so that's the 6 week process, is doing the research, putting together a case study, which is basically saying what it is we're wanting to raise money for. What is our vision? Why are we wanting these funds? So they'll put that together. Then they will convene a group of people who will be their feasibility committee to work. Those will be congregants who will work with them to identify the people who need to be interviewed And these aren't interviews just about, the question is not how much are you willing to give. That's part of the discussion, but even more of the discussion is, tell me about your connection with UUCA. What do you like about what we're doing? What do you not like about what we're doing? What is your vision for where we should be? So it's not just about money, it's about overarching, which is something, frankly, we're going to find very useful, I think, as a congregation, to have those in-depth conversations. So they'll do that, and then that's going to take another 6 weeks, call it, because vacation schedules for people, coordinating with people, getting on their calendar, having those conversations. All of those conversations, also for your information, are going to be anonymous. So they will share with the board and with Project Phoenix the comments that come back, but they will not be ascribed to any individual. So we'll get to see firsthand what people are saying about what they see as the state of UUCA and where we are and what we're doing. So that happens. They synthesize all of that information, and they're also doing due diligence on what they think we can raise as a congregation. They have a wealth database. They can research people's giving patterns. So if you've given money to a political organization or to another charitable organization that reports donations, then they'll know that. They'll see that. That's just public information. They'll use that to help inform their sense of what our generosity might look like as a congregation. How, what might we be able to do? They'll come back to Project Phoenix and to the board with a recommendation as to dollars they think can be raised, and in what tiers and in what level. And there will also be, there's something called the quiet campaign and the public campaign. And the quiet campaign is talking with individuals and trying to get high dollar amount donations, pledges at that point for the capital campaign, so that when the public campaign is rolled out, we have a sense of this amount is already committed. So let's all do our share, let's all step up, let's all see how much we can put into this. So it's a pretty extensive process. Where we think things are going to come out, we think there's going to be a recommendation to the board. Our target is a recommendation to the board at the September board meeting telling us how much they think we can raise. So that's kind of putting that on it, and then it's the actual raising of it at that point. So that's kind of the timeline as I understand it. Yeah, that's really where we are because of the research phase, formulating the question. Another thing they're doing, they're going to be doing a survey of all of our congregants, not just members, not
Endowment Fund, President Eric Poe, and the minister's executive report by Reverend Taryn Strauss. We had our third town hall meeting this morning, and we're gonna have our last one Wednesday at 7:30. So if you can come Wednesday from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, it'll be 30 minutes of your time. Come have one for Wednesday with us, and then right after one for Wednesday at 7:30, we will have our town hall. So please come. But in order to vote, everyone's invited next week, but in order to vote, you have to have been here for 60 days, or a youth who choose to become a member on their bridging ceremony day, which is next week, and have a financial contribution to the congregation in order to vote. But for people who have children, please still come. We have fun, games, and pizza. So please do not let your children be an excuse why you cannot attend. So please let us know by going to the About Us, Visiting with Kids, childcare link at UUCA.org. Again, thanks for your commitment and dedication to UUCA. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
And now, please be sure to take this moment to put your cell phone in its most reverent position. Thanks. Once again, we're glad you're here on this beautiful morning.
In the work of addressing poverty, we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, great visionaries of faith and hope that lead us on this journey. One of these leaders is the Reverend Dr. William Barber II, who, along with Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, has inspired thousands of people with their Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival. They see it as a reenactment of the original Poor People's Campaign from 51 years ago, initially led by Dr. King shortly before his death. Listen to these words of Reverend Dr. Barber. From Moses to Jesus, the Bible tells us that those who fought for justice, those who spoke truth to power, those who refused to accept that injustice and inequality had to exist, and that there was no better way, well, they always found themselves hated, hounded, and heaped upon with false accusations simply because they believed in the necessity of speaking and working for the cause of righteousness and building a more just community. This lack of majority support is why the just must live by faith and must know exactly who we are. So in our worship series on poverty, these last few weeks has helped us to know who we are, what we hope to bring to Atlanta as our contribution to the cause of righteousness, what our faith is that sustains us and sends us out into the work. Amen. A young life has come among us, which we are honored to celebrate today in the ritual of our child dedication. So at this time, will the parents please come forward with their child, Kate Sweeney and John Black. So, Kate Sweeney and John Black, what do you name your child?
David Campbell Black.
David Campbell Black. We give you your name as yours forever, and we dedicate you to the highest values of goodness and truth and love. Now, Kate and John, I want to invite you to remember back to that moment when you met David for the first time. The first time you heard him cry. The first time you held him in your arms. first time you looked into his eyes and he looked into yours. Remember that? This is the child of your desire. This is the son of your hopes. There is no one in all the world who is like him, and there never will be again. And in all the love and the responsibility that your parenting entails, I want you to know you are supported by circles of wider love and responsibility. Family surrounds you with love. So at this time, I want to invite Kate's sister, Elizabeth Sweeney. Oh, she was videotaping, but now she's in it. Elizabeth Sweeney, join us and lay your hands on the shoulders of these parents, at least one of them. Kate and John, I want to invite you to look around you. Look upon the faces of your congregation. Remember these faces and their support for you. You have to remember them on nights when the child won't sleep, when he's sick and you're up with him, soothing him back to rest. Remember these faces when Davy goes off to kindergarten, when David has his first sleepover, his first sleepaway camp, when he has his first major argument with a friend, and his first really big disappointment, and everything else that happens as a child grows, all the joys, all the challenges. Remember these faces, because they've got your back. They're with you. You are not alone. And I would ask the congregation to do some remembering too. Remember your excitement about manifesting something you've always wanted. Then remember the anxiety that came with that. How big the task was. How many are the ways things can get really tough. Remember those times when you needed reassurance and comfort. Remember when you needed a helping hand. Does this congregation dedicate itself to support this child, David Black, and this family? If so, please say, we do. We do. I'll get your part in 1 second. Do the children of this congregation dedicate themselves to be friendly and kind to David? If you do, please say, we do. We do. Oh, this is for the kids. The kids. Okay, let me hear you say, we do. Okay. My kids really wanted to be here for David's performance. They think he's going to perform. He kind of is. So now we are all invited to lay hands of love and support on the shoulders of these parents. So I want you to open your hands now. And if anyone feels moved, you're welcome to join us up here and support these parents and David with hands of love and comfort. Just send them your support. And if you don't want to stand up with us, that's okay. Just send them your support with your hands. Let them know you are with them. And that David is all of ours, in a way. Okay, David, we've got something to do here. Okay, come here. Uh-oh. I've got a flower for you. I have this rose, different from every other rose in the world. Just like you are different from every other child in the world. It's a symbol of your unique beauty and life that has some thorns along with all that beauty. The rose is dipped in water because the water is pure connects us to all living things. And as I touch this watered rose to your forehead, I bless you with wisdom. May you be wise in all your endeavors. I touch your lips. Ready? May you speak the truth in love. I touch this rose to your heart. Ready? Here we go. May you know love that is vast and life-giving. And finally, I touch this rose to your hands. May they do work that is fulfilling. May they spread love in the world, David. David Campbell Black, you are held now by all of us in this community, and this is for you. Oh, careful. Let us pray. May David know the welcome of open arms and hearts. May he know he is loved by many. May he know the circle of friendship that gives and receives love in all forms. May he know and be known in the heart of another. May he know the heart that is this earth. Reach for the stars and call it home. And in the end, may he find everything in his heart, and his heart in everything. Amen. We love you, David, and David's family and parents. Be blessed. And now, won't you please join me in saying our chalice lighting words together? Bye. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition, seeking all who yearn for acceptance and ignite our passion for justice and peace. It's me again. Oh, and now let us remember that the chalice flame also symbolizes the warmth of the community we find here. Won't you please turn to your neighbor and greet them with a handshake or a hug?
Christine. How you doing up here? Hello, Hannah.
This next song the choir will be singing is very appropriate for Mother's Day. It's a Bobby McFerrin song, the Don't Worry, Be Happy guy. But he wrote it dedicated to his mother. It is a setting of the 23rd Psalm that is lifting up the sacred feminine. The 23rd Psalm, For My Mother, by Bobby McFerrin.
She sets
sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely, surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. Glory be to our mother and daughter, and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
This morning's reading comes from Reverend Victoria Weinstein, Prayer for All Who Mother. We reflect in thanksgiving this day for all those whose lives have nurtured ours, the life-giving ones who heal with their presence, who listen in sympathy, who give wise advice, but only when asked for it. We are grateful for all those who have mothered us, who have held us gently in times of sorrow, who celebrated with us our triumphs, no matter how small, who noticed when we changed and grew, who praised us for taking risks, who took genuine pride in our successes, and who expressed genuine compassion when we did not succeed. On this day that honors mothers, let us honor all mothers, men and women alike, who from somewhere in their being have freely and wholeheartedly given life and sustenance and vision to us. Dear Spirit of life, grant us life-giving ways, strength for birthing, and a nurturing spirit, that we may take attentive care of our world, our communities, and those precious beings entrusted to us by biology or by destiny or by friendship or fellowship or fate. Give us the heart of a mother today. Amen.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart.
let us put hands upon hearts and feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others, and that love will heal the world. Now we hear the joys and sorrows of our beloved community. We send love and sympathy to Holly Grimes, whose older sister died unexpectedly on May 7th. Cards and emails of condolence are welcome. We send our love to the family of former member Jane Sensor, who was a UUCA member while her husband David was director of the CDC, and who died on May 2nd. If you would like to mail a card to Jane Sensor's family, the address is in your order of service. We send our love to Elizabeth Canada, whose son died on April 24th. We are holding Elizabeth and her family in our hearts. On this Mother's Day, our hearts go to those who have lost children in school shootings. Most recently, the STEM school in Highlands Ranch near Denver, Colorado last week, and at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte the week before. We grieve for those children's mothers. We join them in grief and anger, knowing there is a path towards greater harmony in our schools, our churches, and community centers, if we can push our lawmakers to walk that path. Finally, we hold all mothers in our hearts this week after the bill signed into law in Georgia that sentences mothers to many years in prison for seeking an abortion past 6 weeks, even if they travel outside of the state to seek an abortion. In the Georgia legislature earlier this year, male lawmakers were asking, but who will speak for the unborn child? And we know the answer to that question is now and always has been, their mothers do. Abortion is a complex and heartbreaking burden that mostly women bear and mostly men legislate. We see the inequity here. Our UU faith calls on us to work for a more just and loving world for all mothers and all children who are born without resources, without hope for survival, or without sustained support of any kind. We steady our breath and strengthen our hearts for the long road ahead in this crisis. At this time, I invite you to say out loud the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning. Lee. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, to remember that all beings are inextricably and mysteriously connected, to feel that connection. So we still our bodies and we still our minds. We take in a big breath and we exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
Located just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, the Highlander Center is an historically significant and innovative social justice training center for activists throughout the Southeast. Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King were both trained in nonviolent organizing tactics, as were many other leaders in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in the Freedom Summer of 1968. Pete Seeger, Guy Carawan, and many other American folk singers performed, lived, and studied at Highlander. A month ago, their main office building containing their archives was burned to the ground. Subsequent investigations have revealed that this was a case of arson and the work of a local white supremacist terrorist organization. This heinous act comes at a time when white supremacist groups are on the rise throughout our country and the globe. We at UUCA might consider cultivating a relationship with Highlander Center, a couple of hours to our north. The National Unitarian Universalist Association's Board of Trustees met at Highlander last year, and Highlander is a significant player in the southeastern social justice communities. It's a wonderful resource for our congregation and to Atlanta. Today, we give away the plate, and we lend our support to Highlander's rebuilding effort, and we say no to the violent acts of white supremacist terrorists. Together, we march forward, not one step back. Please give generously to proclaim our values and rebuild an important center for justice in our corner of the world. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
So this next song we're doing, I sang at the Country Music Awards last year, and Country Music Awards were interesting because I don't listen to a lot of country music, and like some of the music was really fantastic. Some of the music is just like straight up just white supremacy culture living, but also some of the songs were really wonderful, very much including this song written by Carrie Underwood and super Unitarian Universalist. It's called Love Wins.
Stray bullet and a mama cries, baby won't be coming home tonight. Sirens screaming down the avenue, just another story on the evening news. No, no. Politics and prejudice, how the hell do we ever come to this? When everybody's gotta pick a side, it don't matter if you're wrong or right, no, so it goes. But I hold on to hope and I won't let go, 'cause I believe you and me are sisters and brothers, and I believe we're made to be here for each other. We'll never fall if we walk hand in hand, but a world that seems broken together again. I believe in the end, love wins. Sometimes it takes a lot of faith to keep believing there will come a day when the tears and the sadness, the pain and the hate, the sorrow and this madness will all fade away. I believe you and me are siblings and cousins, and I believe we're made to be here for each other. We'll never fall if we walk hand in hand, but a world that seems broken together again. I believe in the end, love wins. Love is a song, love reaches out. Love is the remedy, love is the answer. Love's an open door, love is the only thing worth fighting for. I believe you and me are sisters and brothers and I believe we're made to be here for each other. We'll never fall if we walk hand in hand. Put a world that seems broken together again. I believe in the end, love wins. Oh yeah, love wins. Love will, love can, love still, love wins. Love will, love can, love still, love wins.
Yes, Carrie Underwood, love wins, but not just by wishing, not just by hoping it does. By taking action, by being generous, by partnering with people who are hurting, and by coming here again and again, Sunday after Sunday, to refill our well, to return to love and find it here, and then take that out into the world. Take it out to Highlander Center and all the places that are hurting and that need us. What a gift and a blessing to be able to do that. May this gift go far and wide, spread the most good and the most love that it possibly can. Blessings on this gift.
And now please join me in the dedication of the offering, which is located in your order of service. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings.
Now comes the time of year when I am reminded how we are all going to have to mother each other. If a mother is the one who says yes to loving you, even if the world says no. If a mother is the one who holds us when we have no fight left. If the mother is the one who unclenches our fists and lifts our chin. We are all going to have to mother each other now. Did you know in the United States, the origins of this official holiday go back to 1870, when Julia Ward Howe, a Unitarian and an abolitionist, best remembered as the poet who wrote Battle Hymn of the Republic, worked to establish a Mother's Peace Day. Julia Ward Howe dedicated the celebration of Mother's Peace Day to the eradication of war and organized festivities in Boston for years after that first Mother's Day in 1870. Something in her Mother's Day proclamation, while it rings harshly true today, almost 150 years later. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be that of water or tears, she wrote. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Ooh. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, of mercy, and patience. We, women of one country, we will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. This is what she wrote. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. This is the origin of Mother's Day. I have goosebumps right now. In the name of womanhood and of humanity, she proclaimed, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at the earliest period to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. That's Mother's Day. 150 years later, we are still waiting for this General International Congress of Women. We are still waiting while men of irrelevant agencies make decisions over our bodily autonomy. Can I get an amen? I'm hearing some. Criminalizing our self-determination to have agency over our bodies. This Mother's Peace Day quickly became subverted by capitalist powers that would have us solve the issue of warfare, international warfare, and other atrocities with a nice brunch or a bouquet of flowers or candy. Now, don't get me wrong. Celebrating the work of mothers, the work of motherhood, is a worthy exercise, yes. I have already been chastised by some, brunch lovers. Brunch is okay. I sent flowers to my mother, too. But so much of mother's work happens out of a place of degradation, out of isolation, and a system that criminalizes mothers for providing safety and security for their children, even when that very same system is the threat to those children. To mother another person is to scrape and scrabble for a way through powerlessness. It's filling out forms and meeting with social workers and teachers and guidance counselors and advocating on your child's behalf, and still it's not enough to get them to the precise care they need. It's crossing the borderland for months with your child on your back and arriving at the land you thought was promised and free, only to be ripped from that child in the name of government intolerance. And it's struggling with addiction or poverty, sometimes resulting in being jailed away from your children, with no one left to raise them. Journalist Selena Hill reminds us, while many people plan to spend Mother's Day honoring the women who've raised them and had a positive effect in their lives, millions of African American women will spend the day sitting behind bars, not because they've been convicted of a crime, but because they cannot afford to bail themselves out of jail as they await trial. Each day, about 700,000 people are crammed into local jails across the country, while the mass majority are held in custody simply because they don't have the money to post bail. As a result, the U.S. jail system is overpopulated with mostly Black, brown, and poor people who have committed low-level, non-violent offenses. Of the 2,200,000 women currently locked up, 60% are being held in jail pre-trial, 80% are mothers, and 60% are African American. While spending time in jail can place a heavy burden on anyone who is detained, it can be especially costly for mothers who risk losing their jobs, homes, and children. And we know usually this is not what is best. To help remedy this epidemic, the National Bailout Collective is raising money to reunite incarcerated mothers with their children in time for Mother's Day. The organization, which consists of Black organizers and lawyers, is also calling for an end to the cash bail system and mass incarceration altogether. Many of us, some of us, have a story of incarceration in our own histories or our own families. Some of these family stories carry deep shame or just confusion at how to talk about it. It's not something we talk about much. It was 1990 when I first visited someone in prison. Now, I'm not talking about jail, and I'm really not even talking about poverty at this point, but this is my personal experience with the long incarceration of a mother kept from her child for 22 years. I was 10 years old when I went on a family trip to visit my parents' dear friend, Kathy Boudin, who was imprisoned in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for 22 years for her role in the infamously violent Brinks armored truck robbery in 1981 in Nyack, New York, when she was part of a leftist radical group, the Weather Underground. My parents were roommates and close friends with Kathy and others years earlier when they all worked together in Chicago and Cleveland, community organizing with the Students for a Democratic Society. This group of friends and activists, well, they splintered when some of them took a more revolutionary stance to eradicating poverty and civil rights violations, and the bank robberies were part of a sort of Robin Hood philosophy. My parents went a different direction, but they all remained friends. I remember the strikingly beautiful mountains, that northern Appalachian scenery on a clear July day in upstate New York. I remember driving around the curve to see the high barbed wire cutting into the blue horizon. I was 10 years old. I was scared, holding my own mother's hand as we were frisked and processed, each of us, through creaky metal gates with bars and ominous spiraling layers as we moved inward towards the center of the facility where Kathy would be in the waiting room. My parents cried a little bit when we finally saw her, and though I had never met Kathy before that moment, she was instantly warm, clearly brilliant. She was a little rough, bright-eyed, and a bit manic to learn as much about us as possible in the 45 minutes we had together. Somewhere, we still have the Polaroid family photo we took together that day, and at first glance, we could have been anywhere. We could have been at a vacation house together in New Jersey, which is where we would have been if things had gone differently. But it wasn't just Kathy's intensity or the pressure to know her that I would remember from that prison visit. It was every single other table having their visit in the waiting room, in the visiting center. Besides us, every other woman was being visited by her children. It was difficult to focus, actually, with the sounds of crying mothers who were seeing their children for a few precious moments. I saw children and teens, some my age, looking detached, scared, full to the brim of pressure to make this a big moment. Now, Kathy had been busy in prison. Along with other women inmates and collaborators, she launched 5 major programs at Bedford Hills while she served her time. She started the teen program, supporting teens and preteens whose mothers were incarcerated, strengthening the mother-child bond during their separation, helping the teens become positive, healthy young adults. She launched the parent education program, helping inmate mothers learn to be responsible parents to preschoolers, grade school, and teenage children while being separated by prison. Kathy also started the adult literacy program, which used an innovative curriculum that she wrote, was an outgrowth of the work she did while she was getting her master's degree in adult education, earned while at Bedford Hills. She started the AIDS and Women's Health program, the first peer community health program devoted to AIDS among prisoners. And she also organized the college program, providing courses and degrees to incarcerated women. Kathy Boudin helped organize a consortium of private colleges to offer this program after New York State cut all public funding for higher education in prisons. And finally, she co-authored the Foster Care Handbook for Incarcerated Parents, published by Bedford Hills in 1993, and she co-edited Parenting from the Inside Out, Voices of Mothers in Prison, jointly published by the Correctional Institutions and the Osborne Foundation. See, this is not a story of poverty. It is a story of one mother's incarceration. Her son, Chesa, my age exactly, was 1.5 years old at the time of the robbery. Kathy and her husband had dropped him off with a sitter that day. He wouldn't see his mother again outside of a prison until he was 24 years old. Chesa was adopted by our mutual friends in Chicago, other members of the Weather Underground. Kathy and her husband, who is also incarcerated, still today with a 75-year life sentence for the same crime, well, they wrote to Chesa every single day, but he was raised by someone else. See, remember, I told you this is a story about incarceration, but not poverty. In fact, in some ways, it is a story of how much wealth and privilege can affect the outcome of a mother's incarceration. See, Chesa struggled for a long time as a kid, and I remember those days, but he eventually thrived, went to Yale. He won a Rhodes Scholarship and went to Oxford. Today, Chesa Boudin is running for district attorney in San Francisco, where he recently helped upend California's cash bail system, which was widely seen as inequitable to people of color and to the poor. Because of his personal history, restorative justice and forgiveness, he says, are major parts of his philosophy around criminal justice. I ran into Kathy again years later. I saw her a lot after she was paroled. But years later, I did run into her on the New York City subway. We were both on our way to Columbia University, where I was studying and where she was teaching and teaches now in the School of Social Work. There is no making up for the lost years together, the lost time. But Kathy used her time to make life better and more manageable for other incarcerated mamas. And now, Chesa is using his experience of his incarcerated mother to try and keep San Francisco safe and also kind, and to create a more humanizing justice system. When I say we are all going to have to mother each other, what I mean is we are all going to have to make the world safer for more people in our community, not just our children or our friends' children. I mean, we are going to have to scrape and advocate and make a way out of no way, because that is what mothers do. Unitarian Universalists across the country are joining up with Southerners on New Ground and the campaign of the Black Mama Bailout to try and bail out as many jailed mamas as possible in time for Mother's Day. And in fact, they also have watch parties to watch as mothers leave the jail and are united with their children. I have contributed financially to this year's Black Mamas Bailout in Atlanta, and I hope my contribution made it possible for at least one mother to spend Mother's Day with her children this weekend. It's not enough, but it's something. Other UU congregations, such as the UU Congregation of Asheville, well, they offer a jail ministry where congregants go to the local jail and hold a book study and a support group. Did you know we have a member among us, Suzanne Wilson, who goes to the DeKalb County Jail and teaches law classes to inmates each week? Did you know this? Now, Suzanne is interested in establishing a jail ministry, and she and I hope this is something we can launch together in the coming year at UUCA, so we can all be a part of this in our community. It is Mother's Day in 2019. We have mothers who are interned at our border, isolated from their children. We have mothers who are jailed unfairly and without bail, and we have mothers who are incarcerated for years without support to sustain their relationships to their children. For the collective liberation of all of us, let us create a different world. Let us work to find ways to keep families together, because that is how we honor the worth and dignity of mothers. So, yes, take your mama out today. Hug her and love her and show her you care. Take a moment to mourn your mother if you have lost her, to honor her. Take a moment to honor all the complicated ways mothers show up in our lives. But take heart in this. We are here to mother to each other. And we cannot do that in isolation. There is something you can do to free a mother in Atlanta today. There is someone in your life who needs a little more nurturing. And you can mother that person. You can let them know you will fight for their safety and security. Let them know you will show up for them. Maybe that person is you. And someone's got to show up for you. It is time to mother one another. Mother's Day began with a dream of international peace, inspired by mothers and in the name of mothers who didn't want to raise soldiers but citizens. May we hold fast to that dream and remember Julia Ward Howe's demand each year and let it inspire us in a world yet unseen. She proclaimed, in the name of womanhood and of humanity, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interests of peace. Let us mother to that dream. May it be so. Amen.
Our final hymn this morning is How Can I Keep From Singing? How can music tear down walls? How can it make tyrants tremble when they hear bells of freedom? Please rise in body or in spirit. My life flows on this song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me glows? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please join hands for our benediction. Stay standing in body or in spirit. These hands could maybe use a mother today. Let us celebrate motherhood by nurturing each other, by encouraging each other, Maybe this person needs a hug, maybe just a, how are you doing? Maybe an invitation to a conversation, to lunch, just a chance to listen to each other, support each other. Let us be mothers to one another today and take that care for each other, encouragement out into the world. Let it free. And in that way, may we all get free. Amen. Go in peace.